And you can see it all for just $9.99.
$9.99. We heard that a lot on WWE RAW, WWE TV for a very long time with the launch of the WWE Network. And it's sad to say that the WWE Network is going to officially be shutting down as of January 1st, 2025. Obviously, the network is shutting down because WWE RAW is moving over to Netflix. The times are changing, but the network was something else, wasn't it? It had some gems in there. It was kind of special. But on January 1st, 2025, WWE Network will no longer be available in your area. And after January 1st, Netflix will be the new exclusive home of WWE. Netflix will bring WWE's electrifying content all to one place, including weekly shows, Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, NXT, plus premium live events, the plays, such as WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, and SummerSlam. So with the network shutting down and it will be no more, some confusion around Netflix and WWE is who gets to watch what, where, and how. If you're in the US, you get Monday Night Raw on Netflix, and everything else is going to be on Peacock for the PLEs, and SmackDown and NXT are going to be on Broadcast Network. And if you're like me, you're in Canada or you're in UK and you're international, then we actually get it all.
It's going to be sick.
Netflix becomes our new WWE Network, which is good and bad. And we'll talk about that in a second. I still have questions about how they're going to roll this out in terms of Raw and SmackDown and NXT. We know that Raw is going to be the flagship, and we are hearing everybody's going to be showing up there, from John Cena and probably Roman Reigns.
Extra big.
And Cody Rhodes and CM Punk and The Rock and just everybody. Yokozuna's and Ultimate Warrior are going to show up. That's what Saudi Arabia wants, actually. So never mind. But I don't know if we're going to get, because we're international folks, I don't know if we're going to get SmackDown and NXT live, or is it going to be airing on Netflix the day after, kind of like on demand? I really hope that they're going to be doing it in conjunction, that it's all synchronized together.
So now all of a sudden I'm starting to get interested.
But the post from WWE continues on to say that many of WWE's top moments, along with the historic PLEs and select programming, will be available on Netflix beginning January 1st. So we have the debut episode of Raw on January 6th. That's a controversial date, isn't it?
Don't you dare.
But I'm actually excited and kind of forgot that January 1st is when we are going to see a lot of programming come out. Question mark will be what? And how is it going to compare to the network? The WWE Network had something special in it when it first came out. It was February of 2014, and we were all sitting back and looking at what this thing was going to be, and we definitely knew that for $9.99 we were going to get a lot. We had all the press conferences with Vince McMahon and Triple H shouting it on TV every single week with Stephanie McMahon, Kofi Kingston showing us the menus and how it all works. They even had Stone Cold Steve Austin telling us that was good. The network offered something pretty unique and substantial for its time. At the time, the only real other competitor for streaming platforms was Netflix.
It's just like Netflix.
In terms of the big major networks that were streaming content. And in the world of sports and streaming sports, WWE was kind of ahead. Now, did I love the network? No. I found that in the very beginning, I have big memories, big scary memories of turning on the network and it just chugging and trouble connecting and could not navigate menus very well. But as time went by, they updated the thing and it was actually a pretty good experience. The one thing that the network had going for it, amongst other things, but one of the main things for me was its search functionality. You could type in anything into that search and it would grab exactly what you wanted. And as a wrestling fan, for any type of programming for wrestling and historical stuff, it made it very easy. You contrast that with today, where you have things like Peacock, which gives you a limited selection of stuff. The search is awful. If you're like me in Canada, we go through our cable service providers and things like Sportsnet, and you get a version of WWE Network or WWE Lite. But you get Raw, SmackDown, NXT. They put on the PLEs from the previous year, and some content that's cherry-picked from WWE. Some biographies, the 24/7 stuff, few podcasts, but it's very sporadic and it's not giving you the breadth of content that the network gave us. One thing that I loved about the network at the time was that back catalog, was the fact that you could go back and you could watch stuff from ECW, WCW, WWF, the 80s, the 90s, Ruthless Aggression, the Monday Night Wars, and all of the original program they delivered. And I do remember, maybe you're like me, but when I first watched the network and went through it, I burned through like most of it. The selection for original content wasn't that huge. It took a long time for them to really get more content out there, and then by the time that you had a decent catalog, they pulled the plug on the thing and it was done. But the main hook for me as a fan watching wrestling forever was being able to put on Monday Nitro from 1998, was being able to put on any episode of Monday Night Raw from the Attitude Era, or just to be able to go through and look at the history of different superstars and cherry pick some of their matches, WrestleMania matches. It offered a ton, and there was a ton of appeal to it. Despite it having kind of a soft launch in terms of subscribers in the beginning, which was north of 600,000, they didn't even crack 1 million. But one of the biggest things I think that it offered was that price tag they would not shut up about, which was going to be the $9.99.
You're gonna get hooked on that thing.
When you think about it, what it was to be able to get every pay-per-view and all of the back catalog, that was a ton, because at the time, and a lot of people now that jump on WWE today only know it through streaming and paying $15 a month or $10 a month or whatever to watch any of the pay-per-views. You got to remember, we were coming out of the era of pay-per-views and spending $50, $60 for those pay-per-views and more sometimes for like a WrestleMania. So be able to strip all of that away and go into a world where I was spending $10 a month to get every pay-per-view, being able to watch WWE on a monthly basis for the pay-per-views, which is something that I wouldn't normally be able to do, because I wasn't going to spend $60 on bragging rights, Great Balls of Fire, other bad names for pay-per-views. So this is where Netflix, I'm very curious how they approach this. Are we going to get a bunch of new content on Netflix? Are we going to get a lot of the old stuff that we had on the WWE Network, like the Monday Night Wars and DX and Stone Cold's podcasts? Or are they going to cycle stuff in and out? One thing that I wish Netflix would do with this whole launch on January 1st is give people a little bit of that back catalog on day one. You gotta whet your appetite. You gotta get something in there that's going to hook you. New content, yes. And the weekly shows and the PLEs, awesome. That's going to be really great. But that one hook that the network had for it, for me, was going to be able to go back and watch those old episodes of Raw, WCW, ECW, and more. I don't expect them to go through and be like, hey, here's everything from the 80s and 90s and 2000s and it's all there day one. But I could see Netflix doing things where they will cycle content in and out on a regular basis, on a monthly or quarterly. Imagine being able to get the entire Attitude Era catalog of Monday Night Raw and SmackDown with the pay-per-views for like 3 months, let's say, and they put it on Netflix, and it allows you, or old fans, lapsed fans, whatever, to be able to go back and watch and binge some stuff. So there's that constant flow of content. Being able to go through and just have Netflix show up with every single WrestleMania and do that during Mania season, every single Royal Rumble. There's different ways that they can approach it, which is exciting, but hopefully it's not just going to be Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and the PLEs. That is all great, but as wrestling fans, and we know, we're gonna want more. And I think because it's such a big deal of WWE and Netflix combining forces to become the mega powers of streaming, I think we're going to want to see a lot more from the streaming platform and the service. Netflix is getting expensive. Like, I don't know about you, but for like the 4K versions and stuff, it's like 20 some odd dollars a month. And it's great that for right now, WWE is not going to be an additional cost. But with Netflix getting way more involved in live streaming of sports and events, WWE is kind of the big litmus test. I can see Netflix increasing that price to people, trying to justify it because you're getting all this live exclusive content, and hopefully not. The upside with WWE and Netflix coming together is WWE has cameras on all the time, and we see crazy amounts of footage, and WWE just releases stuff kind of sporadically. We see that with the WrestleMania 40 XL documentary that they released for YouTube, and we've had CM Punk's Survivor Series return behind the scenes. All this exclusive footage that I, as a fan, that's the stuff I love. The exclusive interviews, the documentary style approach to things, getting a little bit of a peek behind the curtain of this thing that I watch all the time. I think that WrestleMania documentary they did for WrestleMania 40 and the CM Punk Survivor Series return that they posted on YouTube, I feel are going to be those little tests that they've done and the type of content we might be able to expect from Netflix going into 2025. With every single PLE showing up on Netflix, they can tie something in there to give fans more content to enjoy. Whether it is a CM Punk return, Randy Orton, the story of the bloodline, and giving you all these sit-down interviews. They can do so much. But I gotta tell you, the network was something special. You had wacky shows on there, but the back catalog was something special, and WWE still owns all of it. So hopefully they will do something fun, unique, different, that's going to get fans very excited for Netflix. And I know what you're thinking. The biggest thing for everybody out there, just hopefully it doesn't buffer.